All right, guys, we are live. Here we are. Mr. Jerry Norton, how the heck are you doing?
Doing awesome, man. I'm so fired up for 2021. I don't know what it is, but I'm like so full of energy to do the business and do deals and live life. It's fun.
Dude, it's because you only have a month of energy left before you have your kid that drains it.
Yeah, baby's coming in a couple weeks.
Oh, that's so good. Does Uncle Cody get to come down? And,
to babysit.
Okay, I'm coming down. I'll wrestle those little buggers. They might win. I'll be outnumbered. Okay, well let's get rocking and rolling. We've got people plugging in right now, which is nice, and this will just grow over time. We're super excited to be here. Just like Jerry said, it's a brand new year. But more importantly, this is now, instead of bringing on a guest this week is dedicated to each one of you that have questions around wholesaling. So it doesn't have to be just specific to marketing or acquisition or disposition. This is like round robin, free for all. So we expect each one of you guys to bring your questions, because me and Jerry are ready. Like we're ready. We got the gloves on. We're going in the ring, and we're going to go with you guys and answer your questions. But Jerry, any preparation you want to give the audience before we get going and jumping right into this?
Yeah, guys. So, I say this every year. There's the best time to get into real estate is like right now, because really it doesn't matter, right? Whether the markets are going up or down, we continue to wholesale and flip houses. But 2021 is projected to be another year of growth. Even everything I'm looking at is saying possibly even more than 2020. No inventory, high demand, low interest rates. Even with the pandemic and all of that, and even with unemployment, the real estate market is going strong and on fire. So kind of what I want to just kind of start out the call with, Cody, is it's kind of a double-edged sword, because what that means is it means acquisitions is very difficult because, right, there's too few houses for too many people. So we have to work even harder to get those good deals. So our acquisitions is like, amped up to the nth degree than it's ever been, because we got to get those good deals. But when you get that good deal, dude, it is like gravy on the backside. So when we go to wholesale that deal or flip that deal, we're getting bigger margins than we've ever seen. And that part is just really exciting. So, if you're worried like, man, it's hard to get that good deal. Yeah, but you're going to make up for it, baby, when you go to put that deal out there, because investors, cash buyers are dying for deals, and they want those deals, and they pay a premium for those deals. So I think it's a fair enough trade-off to do the business, right?
Couldn't have said it better. And I think we're already starting in the right direction right here. It doesn't get any more granular than this as a first question. How do I get started?
Yeah.
Jerry, what's your favorite words when someone comes to you and they just ask you, how do I get started in wholesaling? We'll both kind of attack this. Why don't you shoot on this one first?
Okay. Well, this is kind of a very, broad question. It's kind of like asking Michael Jordan, how do you dunk a basketball, right?
First of all, you got to be taller than 5'10".
Yeah, especially if you're a white boy like Cody. And
this is true.
But the thing is, I would say, and maybe Cody, you can take a little bit different approach if you want, but I kind of feel like the way to get started is I look at the success of the day. If I'm going to end up getting a deal in my pipeline, a pipeline is kind of like deal flow, right? And the only way that you turn on a faucet and start to create some sort of a pipeline is the measurement that's the easiest of all is offers. So I kind of start from that approach first, and then I back into it from there. So in other words, if I look at what I do for the whole week and I kind of say, okay, I'm trying to start this wholesaling thing. Am I on track, or did I have a good week? The measurement is how many offers did I make? And so if Friday comes around or Saturday comes around and you're like, you know what, I did stuff, but I didn't actually put a number in front of a seller, then the business is never going to get off the ground. It's never going to go anywhere. And what we tend to do, a lot of people, is we tend to keep busy with stuff, but we don't actually do things that really are going to create results. And so that number one measurement has got to be offers to sellers, because then if we can just do that enough times, I think the business is really just a numbers game. Do it enough times, you're going to get a yes, and you're going to land that good deal. Yeah. Now, starting from offers, obviously we got to get leads. We got to know how to crunch numbers, and then we got to, know how to say, here's my offer. So there's definitely steps to get there, but how to get started, you've got to get to a place, whatever you've got to do, to put offers in front of sellers. And that's when the magic happens. Up until then, it's all just kind of like, maybe you're productive, maybe you're busy, maybe you're doing something, but you can't really measure any of it until you start putting offers in front of people.
Well said. Well said. Well said. Well, I'm not going to put too much on that in any kind of other leading measurement, other than the biggest thing that holds people back is just a lack of action. And there's so much. If you think about the world right now, one of the biggest plagues is not COVID-19, guys. One of the biggest plagues our nation faces is fear. Yeah. And you have to beat that fear with proximity, meaning you got to get close with it. You got to fall in love with it. No different than when you rode a bike when you were a little kid. You just had to hop on the bike. There was natural fears that said, no, I'm going to fall. But the only way you learned to ride a bike was not thinking, oh, you know what? One day it's just going to happen without practice, without trying. You just got to beat that fear with proximity. So there's going to be a lot of things coming into your head saying, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not an expert. I can't do this. I can't do that. And I don't know anything about homes. And I don't know what if I put under contract and I can't perform. And you start to build this fear that really it's us that's stopping us from progressing, from getting good and actually doing a deal. So to add to Jerry, I would tell you, get out of your way. Wholesaling is easy. The wholesaler, us, is complicated. Get out of your way. Just get a little bit of instruction and be willing to get out there and take massive imperfect action, knowing you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to do it perfectly. And it's okay. When you hit a little hurdle, when you hit a little trial, that's when you'll figure out what you have to do next. But don't try to prep and build this perfect plan, because a perfect plan does not exist. And that's the only thing I'd probably add to that.
Yeah, kind of a follow-up to that is definitely that fear. And I think the biggest way to quantify that, or where I see it the most, is just picking up the phones and talking to people. And we tend to come up with all kinds of reasons why not to do that. But really, when you own that, the only way I'm going to get deals is putting offers in front of people, which means I've got to be willing to talk to people, not take rejection personally, and just get over that and pick up the phone and make those calls and make those offers. That's game changer. I mean, you'll be so amazed at how quickly your business starts to get momentum when you just overcome that fear, take that imperfect action. Like Cody always says, I love when you say, imperfect action is better than perfect inaction, because that's what happens. It's never perfect. So then what happens is you think when it's perfect, then I'll do action. Well, then you actually never take action because it's never perfect, right? It's never the perfect opportunity. So that imperfect action is going to just propel you forward so fast that it'll be amazed how quickly you get results.
Man, well said. Here's a good one that kind of just leads right into it. I think this is perfect because you actually just said this.
Yeah.
Have conversations. Start having conversations. So Victor Matthews, great question. How many calls should you make each and every day? Where do you want to go from here? You want me to go or you go, Jer?
Well, I'll tackle it first. So
okay.
Calls are not all created equal, right? So, I mean, there could be cold calling where you're calling just a dead list, not a dead list, but a cold list. There's warm leads, there's hot leads. So again, starting at kind of like, what do we measure? An offer would be, you have a seller, they're interested in selling at some level of motivation. And then you say, here's a number, here's my cash offer. That is what I'm talking about, where we're putting an offer in front of somebody. Now, it may take so many cold calls to get a warm lead and a warm lead to a hot lead. And, I know, Cody, you really quantify those numbers too, which is very important. You got to track all of that. But going back to kind of offers, which is really what matters, I think if you're making 5 bona fide legit offers, they don't have to be all in writing, that's ideal, but 5 legit offers to real sellers a day, that's going to be, 25 a week. That's going to be 100 a month. My experience doing this for a long time and coaching a lot of people is that if you make 100 legit offers in a month and you're brand new and you don't have really much momentum, that usually will equate to at least 1 contract. And if that 1 contract is a $10,000 wholesale deal, that was worth those 99 no's to get that 1 yes. So to me, what I coach my students is the magic number to start to get traction is got to be that 5 legit bona fide offers a day and then you'll get a deal. Like, it's just a numbers game. Someone's going to say yes.
Love it. I love it. And there's going to be a point, guys, where a seller's so motivated that no one could ruin it. I sincerely mean this.
Yeah.
There are leads so motivated, I could send my 7-year-old out to go get it, who would take nothing but imperfect action and walk out with a contract. So don't be afraid of motivated sellers, because you just can't ruin it. You could do everything wrong and still do a deal wholesaling. I really, really want to pinpoint that. And there's so many different ways to do this. Let's break it down for leads. So he's talking about calls, right? And it's like, get out there, make offers, 5 a day. Phenomenal already. That should be something that it's like, okay, I could turn this off right now, leave, and I could just go and start acting on that. Awesome. And I think you would find out that by just simply focusing on that, you're going to get a deal. Another way around that is, if for every 100 phone calls, there's going to be about 75 of them that tell you either pound sand, F off. There's going to be so many rude, just people out there. 75 of them, right, are going to be that way. Of the 25 that are left over, they're going to be what Jerry said, the word pipeline, right? Building up this CRM, this database of people that either said yes, maybe, or yeah, I could consider it. 25, right, of 100 phone calls. Of those 25, maybe one of them's ready to go right now. The rest are just going to be follow-up. So I also, to tell you a number for follow-up, about 75% of every one of our deals are follow-up. And so if all you're looking for is on-the-spot closes and just deals that will close like right now, you're only going to hit about 25% of your market. 75% of your market is going to go to those that are willing to do the follow-up. So as you start making these calls, as you start making these offers, realize that not everyone's ready to sign and commit today, but it is awesome and necessary for you to make sure that you're always doing follow-up, because 75% of our deals come from the follow-up method.
Yeah. You know what I heard? I heard a statistic, Cody, that, and this is the National Sales Association, so this is across the board sales. 80% of sales are made between the 5th and 12th follow-up. So if you think about that, everybody's minimum follow-up, because I saw a question in there about, what's considered follow-up. But if you're not following up at least 5 to 12 times, then, you're missing a ton of business by not having enough follow-up. So one of the things that we do, Cody, and I'm sure you do this too, is once someone kind of like doesn't take the initial, we don't get them initially, they go into a follow-up, right? And that follow-up, or if they don't answer, let's say they fill out one of our PPC, like a form, an online form that they want to sell their house, but then we can't get a hold of them. My cold callers, they call that person like 5 times a day, text, call. And then we just keep doing that for the first week. And then we slowly kind of spread it out. And then they go into maybe like a monthly. But I mean, until someone says, no, don't ever call me again, we kind of keep following up all the time. Like, it's just, you don't stop. It's just,
that's right.
It goes on. It just becomes a routine thing that has to happen, because the fortune is in the follow-up. And that, you said it, 75%. The problem I think people do is they burn through so many leads. They throw them away and they don't follow up. And you're losing a lot of money by not having good follow-ups in place.
100%. Here's one. I'm in Southern California, San Bernardino County. Would you recommend that I focus to a virtual market? Guys, here's the one thing already out of the gate with California. California is nominally known for people to tell you you can't wholesale in California. I don't know what it is with that state. But yes, you can wholesale in that state. It does vary. So always go with a real estate attorney to just tell you what it is, because I will tell you, Southern Utah is different than even Northern, or Southern California is different than Northern California. Like there's so many different regulations within the state. So just make sure you follow it. I actually would tell you, whoever this ends up being, Facebook user, I would tell you that there is nothing probably better and simpler and probably help you become the best version of yourself as a wholesaler than doing it and learning it in your backyard first and foremost. Because with virtual wholesaling, it does bring on a lot of moving parts. It's not something that's just as simple as, hey, pick a market and I'm going to pick up the phone. I mean, for example, because I do business in my own market here in Utah, and I do business in Dallas, Texas, but I actually have an operation in place. It's not virtual. I will win most virtual wholesalers that try to do business in Utah and in Dallas, Texas, because there's that face-to-face, eye-to-eye, knee-to-knee, really being there to solve problems. People get to know who you are. You get to build rapport at a higher level than someone just trying to close deals over the phone. Now, does that mean you can't do deals virtually? Yeah, people are doing it, but I don't know many that are doing it at a very, very, very high volume like they really want. It's kind of like the onesie twosie stuff. I always love face-to-face, to be honest. I would learn right there in your backyard. And then from there, it will start to teach you what you need to prep for virtual, because it is in itself a little beast. And it hurt my business. I was here in Utah doing a lot of business. We were doing about on average 150,000 in gross rev every single month. And so we thought we were cute and fancy, and we opened up in Indiana. And we thought, man, what we know now, let's just go over there and do it again. And the first couple deals we came across was an individual that said, hey, I've got 2 deals. And we're like, okay, talk to me about them. Like, for $2,500. I'm like, perfect. $2,500 per home. And this person says, oh, no. $2,500 gets you both my homes. And I'm like, I can't even buy a trailer in Utah for $2,500. He's giving me 2 homes, guys. We couldn't wholesale that for more than $3,500. Here I was doing about $20,000 per deal in Utah. And now I'm in Indiana, like working double time because there's all these deals, but getting $1,500, $700, $2,000 assignments. You're working so hard. I got to do 10 deals for 1 deal in Utah. And by doing it, we lost traction in Utah, and we started dipping below $100,000. And we got to the point where we're like at 60,000. And so we had to cut it out, just like you would cancer out of your body. And the moment we cut out Indiana, we started picking back up in Utah. And we didn't go into another market again until we really had our process, our people, our systems dialed in Utah before we went into Dallas. But now we're in 2 markets, and we did it right this time. But virtual, even knowing what I knew and killing it in Utah, we still made bad mistakes by going to Indiana. So I just wanted to share that because I've actually lived that pain.
Yeah, so I'll add to that. And so I do a lot of deals virtually, but I've gone through a massive learning curve, kind of like Cody explained, to get good at it. And to add to what you said, nothing is going to get you faster results than your backyard, because you already are intimately familiar with your market, even if it's just geographically. Like, even people who don't do real estate, they know, the best part of town and the higher end neighborhoods. And when you say cross streets, people know where that is. And, so everyone kind of has a general sense of where they live in their backyard. And that cuts down a massive learning curve. So if you are going to go virtual, because there are some benefits to it, but if you are going to go virtual, you cannot shortcut that. You have to learn that market inside and out, geographically, and where the values change, what the school districts are, all of that stuff. You got to figure that stuff out in a virtual market. So you're adding more to your learning that you have to do to get good at wholesaling. So that's kind of the biggest thing. And then the second thing is, you've got to get really good boots on the ground. You've got to have someone that can go to the properties for you. You've got to have someone that can meet sellers if you need that. You got to have someone that's going to do all of these things now that are more difficult because you're not there, that you now have to do. So if you're willing to kind of tackle those additional 3 or 4 things that you've got to now add to your business model, then you very well can do good virtually, but you just gotta, grasp that and really accept that fact that there's just those challenges with not being your backyard that you have to face. So those are just kind of some things there. I even rehab, I do on my fix and flips. We do those virtually as well. And that's even more complicated because, now we got contractors. And so I got to get, eyes and ears on my contractors. So now I got people babysitting my contractor, and it just adds more to the whole process. But on the flip side, I'm much more productive because I'm not spending a lot of time running around and looking at properties because I can't. They're not right here, So then I kind of feel like I gain some that way too. So, but I think Cody, the real question is, because I have a lot of this. California, they're like, oh, I have to go virtual. I'm in California. But in reality, if you're wholesaling, there are flippers in San Bernardino flipping like crazy, and they're looking for deals. And what tends to happen with California is people think because the dollar numbers are so much higher that somehow that makes it much more difficult to wholesale. Well, if we're doing true assignments, it doesn't matter anyway, right?
That's
You're
right.
signing a contract. So who cares if you're wholesaling an $800,000 house or an $80,000 house? It doesn't matter if you're doing a true assignment. Now, if you're taking deals down, then there's a big capital thing going on, but not if you're just wholesaling. So I don't know. I kind of feel like don't be afraid of your market just because it's expensive. That shouldn't matter at all. Don't do it for that.
I'd say love it, because at the end of the day, you may do less deals, but you're going to make more per deal also. So I always tell people when we start to hear like the grass is greener on the other side, 10 times out of 10, if you're looking at greener grass, it's because it's AstroTurf. Like it's literally artificial turf. Like don't get bought into this grass is greener on the other side. You'll find out that one deal could pay you 80 grand, 100 grand, 150 grand. And that's the beauty.
Yeah. I've got a student that wholesales in the low end of Philly, and his average wholesales are 5 because he's wholesaling like $20,000 houses. Every now and then he'll get a 10, but that's about as much spread as he can create on a lot of those. Whereas, you might be a San Diego wholesaler and your minimum wholesales are 30 grand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
or more.
And then your good ones are 50, 60, 80, so, and it's just as much work to wholesale a small house as a big house, right? It's a contract, it's a
Same
cash
process.
assignment. Yeah. So I would say, tackle it head on and embrace it until you get really comfortable.
Love it. What's your advice on cold calling for the first time?
Pick up the phone.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, the phone is a 60-pound porcupine. Put on a glove and pick it up. Like, don't be afraid of it. Just put on a glove and pick it up. But I will tell you, when it comes to cold calling, direct numbers, we will do right around, let's call it 700,000-800,000 this year between both markets through cold calling channel. Here's where I have to adapt to like different people on this. You're going to have beginners that are going to be very much at the very beginning stages. And here's what you have to understand. And as long as you understand this, then you just got to pick what works best for you. And that is, most beginners are doing this part-time, meaning they have a 9-to-5 job. Now, for those of you that are single and don't have kids, I have 4, Jerry's about to have 10. Like, if I come home from a 9 to 5, and then I tell my wife that I'm going to go pick up the phone for the next 3 hours, she may be on board for the first 3, 4, 5, 6 days. But if I'm going to do that for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months, I may not have a wife and kids to support me on this journey. And so I always tell people, just be prepared. As long as you understand that, and you can have a crucial conversation with your family saying, I need the support because I don't want to do the ad spend on driving for dollar. On direct mail. I don't want to do the ad spend on web or digital marketing, pay-per-click. And so I want to use my sweat equity to just pick up the phone and start dialing for dollars, right? That's okay. just know that that is going to put some strain in areas that you just got to think about and make sure your full family is on board. That's the only way I made this, guys. This is the only way I got to the level I was. It was because me, my wife, and my kids, we even involved them and said, hey, for the greater good, Dad's going to be doing this. I may miss some family dinners. I may miss coming to some sports stuff because I'm going to go on late appointments because I'm going to be working insurance during the day, and then I'm going to be setting my appointments for the evening. So I may miss stuff, but I love you and I just need your support. And we all did this together. My wife was supportive. Wholesaling will throw you curveballs, and you don't want to come home from a bad appointment where someone told you you're a dirtbag or you just went to your 5th appointment and you still haven't got a contract. And then you come home and your spouse is like, and by the way, and you forgot to do this and you didn't eat dinner with us. And the kids went home or to bed crying because their dad wasn't there to sleep with them. And I'm just like, oh, if I had to come home to that, I don't know if wholesaling would have worked. When I came home and maybe one of the kids were like, oh, I just miss Dad. I wish he'd go to bed with me. My wife was there to say, hey, remember, bud, we're going to support him on this. We're going to help him through this. Dad's going to do this. He's going to do this quick if we support him. And then pretty soon you'll never miss a night going to bed with Dad ever again. And we got the family supportive behind it. So just know what you're getting into with cold calling. I tell people it's the most painful marketing channel to scale, because the only way to scale it is by bringing on yet another moving part, and that's people. And it's your highest turnover job. So just be aware of those things. And as long as you're aware of those things, it's totally fine. But it's pain. If I knew I had to call the rest of my life, I'd probably tell you I'm going to get into something else.
Yeah. Honestly, if you ask, my honest opinion is cold calling is not the best use of your time. Now, if you have zero marketing budget and you've just got to figure it out, then fine, pound those phones. But honestly, we utilize overseas virtual assistants to do our cold calling, and they're amazing. And they're, like no accent. They do really good. They follow the scripts really well. They're super accountable, and they work their tails off, and they generate a lot of warm leads because they're the ones calling those lists. And so I don't know, I kind of feel like whatever budget you can kind of set aside to get your business off the ground, if that's at all possible, then maybe implementing a virtual assistant cold caller. Now I pay quite a bit because I want the best, but we pay, I don't know what you're paying, Cody, but we pay $12 an hour. Now I know that's expensive because that's almost.
Or 20.
20? Okay. So, there you go.
Feel really good about your price. That's a great price.
Are they US based people?
They are not US based people, but most of them are US citizens that now choose to live in Costa Rica just because they can't afford to live in the US. So they're usually actually vets from the war.
Now, are you letting them close?
No. So these guys are just strictly there to sift and set the appointment.
Okay. So yeah, so mine are $12 an hour. Cody's paying up to $20 an hour. So I know that's expensive. You might be thinking, well, holy crap, I don't have that kind of budget. And I get it, but just think about, do the math in your head and think about if you're not pounding the phones, what else could you be doing? And is that the best use of your time? So that's the thing. The question I ask myself 1,000 times, every day over and over again is this, whatever it is I'm doing, is this the best use of my time? Is this $1,000 an hour work? Because I know if I stay out of the trenches and I can focus on more strategic, high-level activities, I'm gonna do more deals. I'm gonna do bigger deals. I'm gonna grow my business. And cold calling is just one of those things that you can get done for people that are like specialized in that, and they're doing it all day on your list.
Yeah.
So, anyways, just something to kind of think about.
100%. I love it. Here we go. Next one. Would you wholesale a deal with tenant? Meaning someone is renting the place, you put under contract. Would you wholesale that deal?
So I think we talked about this a minute last week. I'll wholesale anything. I'll wholesale Cody's dog, if he'll let me.
Yes, so, you can take it. It's yours.
I don't care if it's a condo, a townhouse, a mobile home, has a tenant. I don't care if there's, fire ants. I don't care if the roof got burnt down. There's a buyer for everything. You just have to understand it. You have to understand the nuances. The more problems you have, then the more on a property, right? The more issues a property has, then two things. that's a problem you need to solve, and you get a bigger discount. So I'll give you an example. I bought a package of 5 contracts from a tired landlord. All 5 of them had non-paying tenants. They all needed evicted. It was a pain in the butt. It was a hassle. And I basically said to the seller, I said, listen, here's my price if you get the tenants out. And here's my price if I got to get the tenants out. And they're like, I don't want to deal with the tenants. You deal with the tenants. I said, okay. And I got a bigger discount. And then when I went to my cash buyer, I said, hey, by the way, there's a non-paying tenant in here. But then the price I brought it to them also reflected, that hassle. And they were fine to inherit the hassle and deal with the tenants because they got a better deal. So it's all about, what the numbers are and what's the hassle factor and all of the nuances involved with that. Like, I got a deal right now where I got a foundation issue. So I got a structural engineer and a foundation contractor to go look at the project. I got a hard inspection and I got a hard bid. It's like 10 grand. So now when a cash buyer looks at that property, I say, hey, there's this problem. Here's the solution. And they know what it costs. I got a discount on the deal to cover that cost. So it's just solving problems. Whatever the issues are, you just solve those problems. A tenant in a property, look at that like a problem, right? There's going to be some cash buyers that don't want that. There's going to be some that are like, well, if they're paying, that's great. I want that. Are they not paying? I want a discount. Just whatever it is, you figure it out.
100% true. And the only thing I can throw to that, because this is all 100% I agree with, the only thing to add to it is just remember if there's an underlying agreement, the buyer has to abide by it. That's the other thing that you just got to remember. So ask those questions. Hey, what's the underlying agreement with the tenant that's in place? Maybe they get to stay there for the next 6 months, or their lease isn't up for another 12 months or another 4 months, whatever it is. You can't just say, well, we're buying it now and it's now our home, get out of here. No, you very much have to abide by the underlying agreement that's in place with that tenant. So that's the only thing I'd add is always ask for the underlying agreement, the lease agreement, because your end buyer is going to have to abide by that and actually fulfill it.
Double check with your state, because certain states have certain tenant rights. So when there's a change of ownership, that may supersede tenant rights, but in most
That's good to know.
Yeah, most states it doesn't. Whatever the lease supersedes change of ownership. So don't think just because we bought the property now you got to leave. As long as they're adhering to their lease agreement, and the lease agreement might have in there a clause that says, if the property is sold, tenant has 90 days to vacate or whatever. But like Cody said, you just got to understand what's going on with that tenant, what their rights are, because you better believe your cash buyer is going to be asking those questions. They're going to say, I want to see a copy of the lease. When is the tenant leaving? Are they paying? Are they performing? What's the rent rate? Is it under market value, or is it, all those things are just answers that you need to find out so that you can provide those to your cash buyer.
100%. I love it. So now let's go to present to your cash buyer. How do I find a cash buyer?
Yeah. How do I dunk a basketball?
Guys, there's so many ways to do this. I think my easiest and favorite way is obviously networking is your easiest. Well, it will be your strongest way because you're face to face and people get to know who you are. So you're building that relationship so that when they actually do get your email with the deal, they'll open it. But your easiest way, and one of my favorite hacks, is Facebook. And just go on all the different Facebook groups. There's so many out there. Wholesaling Houses Full-Time has over 100,000 members in it. If you just simply go in there, and I'm not promoting this group, I'm just saying that's one that just has a ton of people. And if you just simply put on a post saying, hey, any cash buyers in whatever state and city you're in, and people are going to chime in, awesome. DM them, PM them, and get their information, get their email, their phone number. The other way is you don't even have to put that post. Just go to the little magnifying glass, the search button within the group, and just type in Utah cash buyers. And every post now, since inception, it'll go through and find every post that has the words Utah and cash buyer, and you'll see people have posted that in the past. And now all the responses, you'll have well over, I mean, thousands of people. It says, yep, I am. Yep, add me your cash buyers list. Yep. And you just have a VA just DM them, PM them saying, hey, looks like you're a cash buyer in Utah. We'd love to add you to our cash buyers list. All you need is your email and your phone number. And seriously, you could add 100, 200, 300, 400 cash buyers literally a day if you had this done by a VA and not you doing it the full time.
That's amazing. I love that technique. One more I'll add to it that we do quite a bit, and this works if you have zero list. What we do, and this is kind of standard protocol because we always add cash buyers doing this, but we go on to, if you have MLS, you can do it there, but if you have Zillow, Redfin, any of those sites, and what we do is we do a neighborhood, we look at the neighborhood, and then we go to solds, and then we find transactions that are that have sold by flippers, right? And you can tell because it's renovated, it's vacant, and sometimes staged. And then we reach out to those agents and we say, hey, I've got a contract on a property right now. I see that you represented a flipper on, XYZ Street, 2 blocks over. Is your investor interested in another deal? Because what I found is flippers love to flip houses in the same neighborhoods where they're actively flipping. And we tend to get a premium because they love that. Like if you can get them and you time it right where they're looking for their next deal, they'll eat those deals up because it's right in their neighborhood. And I found that on average, if we talk to 12 agents that represented flippers within the neighborhood, half a mile or whatever, then around 12 conversations usually result in a cash buyer that wants our deal. So that's pretty good. Those are pretty good numbers. And we also get our deal moved, which we have, in hand. We get the deal moved and we grow our list because all those people we're talking to, we can then add them to our list. So it's a list building strategy, and it solves your immediate problem of, I got a contract, I need a cash buyer. How do I find the best cash buyer? So that's one of my favorite techniques for finding a cash buyer.
Guys, if you don't have a pad of paper and a pen and jotting this stuff down, you are absolutely crazy. I'm telling you, there is so much good advice and gold being delivered, but it's because there's great questions going on. So I want encourage you guys to keep asking these questions, because I have Devin in here that says, is this really live? So I want to post that just so you guys know, yes, it is really live. Let's go to our next one. Jerry, you may want to do this one because mine are all, I have an actual operation down in Dallas. So I don't close deals from Utah in Dallas. I actually have a team in Dallas that is closing this. So how do you close deals on houses that are out of state?
I'm assuming you're talking about the actual closing, right? Title. And so we do all of that remote. I mean, I close my deals remotely here in Arizona where, title's 20 minutes down the road. Because now we either do one of two things. We do a traveling notary, and the title will line that up. So they'll schedule traveling notary, they'll come out. If you're doing an assignment, you're not signing anything anyway. So you just give title, your wire info, and they wire you your assignment check, right? And then all my title people that I work with, they do the closing separate between seller and cash buyer. So they come in and sign at different times. We don't ever want them talking to each other, saves on drama or any kind of like issues. And, if you have a wholesaler friendly title company, they know how to do all of this. It's actually one of the easiest parts of the whole process.
Yeah.
Now, most of my cash transactions, like let's say I'm taking a deal down, which we do quite a bit. We're now signing cash closings on DocuSign. So no hard copies, no print, scan, overnight back, no traveling notary, none of that. It's starting to become now a thing. I'd say about half of our closings are now DocuSign closings, which is awesome. Now, that ain't going to happen if there's a lender involved or hard money or anything like that. But if it's a true cash transaction, then that's how we do that. So, I think maybe a better part of this question would be, how do you find a wholesaler friendly title company? Because that's going to solve 99% of your problems. If you've got a good title company that understands assignment closings, then it's a cakewalk. Like, I don't know, we don't have any issues at all between seller buyer, how we get paid, none of it. It's all pretty simple.
I love it. Simple thing. Two things that I would add to the beforehand stage on close on houses. Mobile notary is also really, really good because if you had to, mobile notary is not because of like they do something that's incredible, this service. What it does is it allows the seller to commit to something so they actually will stay with your offer. Because you're doing this over phone, you lose a lot of that touch with your seller, and they could go behind your back and use your offer now to shop out other offers, and you could lose a deal. And so whenever we come up with, when we did do it in Indiana, we would use a mobile notary, but it's because I just want the seller to commit to something. Because usually when you can get someone a commitment out of them, they're more likely to stay moving forward with you versus shop you out, because they're like, oh man, yeah, this is going to cost this guy $50, $75, $100 for, I mean, he's already paid for it. He just told me it. Hey, I got this guy. I found him for about $100. It's a mobile notary that's going to come out and get this signed. And now they're like, oh man, I don't want to make it where he just lost $100 on this guy and go for someone else. So that's one way to do it. And if you're going to make offers over the phone, we never send an offer unless, and even with DocuSign, that's how we do it, unless they're willing to pull up the computer right now. So it'd be getting a commitment. So it'd be like much like, hey, Jerry, if I'm able to do that $200,000, is that something we could put an agreement together tonight? And if Jerry says yes, I'd be like, okay, well, tell me this. If I'm able to put this together, a DocuSign, so we can put this together tonight, is this something that you're in front of a computer right now that we could go through this? And if not, I do not send it. Otherwise, they're going to just use that contract and shop the heck out of it. I make sure that they're at their computer right now and they're ready to sign right now before I send a DocuSign.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. I like that tip. So guys, just to clarify what Cody said is when he says mobile notary, he's sending someone to the seller's house, right, Cody? And that someone to the seller's house is actually going to sign in front of that person. It just legitimizes the whole experience. It's like, wow, this is a real thing. Someone's coming, I'm signing in front of them. And it's just a way to kind of make this whole thing feel real and serious, right, to a seller. Yeah, so love that. That's awesome.
Okay, let's do this. When you guys flip a deal to the MLS, do you pay your listing agent full commission? And that just, depending on what state you're in, it could be 3%, it could be 2.8, it looks like in your city. What does that look like for you? You do a lot of fix and flips. You do a lot of wholesale deals. Yeah. Do you find someone that's, well, you own a brokerage too. Do you find someone that will list it and you have to pay them the 3%? Or do you be like, no, I'm going to be spoon feeding you things, I expect a discount?
So great question. I love this question because the answer is it depends. So here's where I'm going with this. When I wholesale, in a lot of markets where all I want nothing else, no other service other than I want the thing on the MLS, we'll do like a flat fee, $400 flat fee listing thing. And those are everywhere. So it costs me $400. It's on the MLS. Now that agent / broker isn't doing anything. So whatever happens, it's going to get forwarded to you. Showings, questions, offers, all of it. So if you're prepared to kind of manage that on your own and that's worth it, then you could do something like that, a flat fee listing. So I do that sometimes with my wholesales. On my fix and flips, I don't. I pay a full 3% commission in a lot of cases to my listing agent, but you should see what that listing agent does for his 3%. He's super involved in the whole process. He's involved from day one when we acquire the property. He's involved in decisions on what we're doing to the rehab. He's involved a lot of times if it's a light rehab, he coordinates contractors. Like he's doing a lot for that 3%. That's one model. We do that. Another model we do though is in my high volume markets, I'll get a discount because I can say to that agent, hey, we're doing 15, 20 deals a year in this market. You'll get all my listings, but I want it for, $1,500. And you're going to get all of the benefit, all of the rollover from that business because every one of my listings is calls on the signs. It's your advertising. It's building your credibility, your portfolio. It's going to result in buyer's agent commissions and all that. So there's so much you can do with this one. You just have to figure out what makes the most sense for you. What I won't do is I don't pay 3% for a listing agent to just put the thing on the MLS and that's it. I mean, that takes 10 minutes. Why am I paying 3%? What are you doing for 3%? So what most retail people pay for a listing for 3%, no way. It's just there's just not enough value in just doing a simple listing for 3%. But you're super involved in my entire project. Yeah, I'll pay you 3%, or anywhere from that to different varying things of flat fees, discounted like 1.5% type things. So you just kind of got to think through your business model and do what makes the most sense.
Love it. I don't know if I need to add anything to that. That's perfect. When do I reveal the address to the cash buyers? I think the better question, Kelly, on this one is maybe start to ask yourself why you asked this question. And I'll get to the reason behind this. Sometimes we have this fear base that, oh, if I get this cash, and more of it's a fear-driven question, meaning if I give the cash buyers the address, they're going to go behind my back and try and snake the deal. And we start to paint these pictures, and we start to paint these what if scenarios. And I would say a high percentage, I'm not going to make up a percentage, but definitely a high percentage of those what ifs never even come to fruition. They never even happen. And so we give it's under contract. That's the best part. When you put a home under contract, you don't have to worry about saying, well, I got to make sure they're bona fide buyers before I give them an address because I don't want anything shady going on. You've got it under contract, meaning they can't go around your back and sell it. They can try to attempt to do it, and the seller may sign a second agreement without knowing, but at the end of the day, they can't. You're the first person that's put that home under contract. So I never send it to cash buyers until it's under contract. So first and foremost, but you don't have to wait long. You don't have to be like, well, let's verify this. I send it out, but when we build our cash buyers list, we're very upfront what we expect from our cash buyers, that this is very much, here's the process, here's the step-by-step. When you're on it, you're going to get this. It's going to go to the highest and best. Does that hurt you? If you are willing to buy it, do you care that I make, whether it's $1 or whether I make $50,000? Does that bother you as long as you make the money you want to make? Nope, that's fine. Perfect. Why do I ask these questions? Because those are the common concerns. Like, oh man, you made 40 grand and I'm going to make 20. I'm like, perfect. That's what you agreed to, right? You said if whatever dollar I make, as long as you're okay with what you're going to make, you're going to move forward. So you don't allow that to come up. But at the end of the day, have I had some kind of a cash buyer try to go around me? And I think that's probably where most of the time these questions come from. Yes. And at the end of the day, there's nothing they can really do about it. I'll have cash buyers. I have such a great rapport with our seller that it doesn't end up being anything. It doesn't end up turning anything bad. And even if they did want to cancel, the beautiful thing is most states, you can either put on what's called a memorandum or a notice of interest where they can't sell it for a time period. So if they do want to get out of it and it's really legitimate and you're worried that you feel like, man, I think it's because another cash buyer is coming in and they offered them $5,000 more or whatever, right? You can put a memorandum or a notice of interest, and that basically just fogs or clouds the title where they can't move it. They can't sell it until they come back to you and settle that notice of interest or that memorandum. But again, I don't know how many deals, in the 5 years I've done it, less than 5 that have ever had to go to that. Usually what happens is they go out there and yes, the seller calls you, but guess what? The best part is you get we call it blacklisting. We blacklist that cash buyer, and I let every wholesaler in the state of Utah know about it. And now he doesn't know of any deal going on because he just got blacklisted for not just me, but every wholesaler in the state of Utah.
Yeah, so I'll add to that too, because a great answer too, Cody. So again, I mean, think about your cash buyer now. Hey, I got this deal, but I'm not going to tell you the address. I mean, when I'm a cash buyer looking at deals from wholesalers, if they don't give me the address, I don't even bother, because what I got to chase you down now for an address? Like, you're making the job more difficult for your cash buyer. Why? Because you're afraid they're going to go around you. That can happen. A seller can backdoor you. A cash buyer could backdoor you. And trust me, do this long enough, and that probably is going to happen at some point. I wouldn't run your business being afraid of that. Like Cody said, it's going to happen sometimes, but it's very slim. But I want to go back to what Cody said. You can very easily we call it an affidavit of memorandum. It's a simple document. Only you sign it. You don't have to get the seller to sign it. You give it to title when you give them your purchase agreement and then they can record that, and that will prevent the seller from backdooring you and selling it to somebody else. Because like Cody said, what it does is it records your interest in the property. And then if the seller were to try to contract with somebody else and close around you, that's going to pop up and it's going to prevent him from doing that. And I actually have that for free. I have a free download for that. If you guys want that, I can put that in the link to that in the description. And if you're worried about that, it's really simple. Just make it standard policy, ask title to record it, and it'll just prevent that from ever happening again. And you don't have to run around being afraid of that and worrying about the address. And again, don't ever try to wholesale a property you don't have an executed contract on. I mean, that's not good business. You're going to burn bridges. You know, that's not how we should wholesale. You should get the contract first.
100% agree. Do I have to get a pre-approval or like a pre-approved or something before I find a deal?
No, I don't know where that would be. Now, if you're getting financing and you're trying to buy a property, you're going to need to show proof of funds and maybe, you know, show where your funding's coming from. But remember, guys, you approach this as a cash offer, and you're then assigning that offer that's for cash to a bona fide legit cash buyer. And so, you know, you don't really need that. Now, I do a lot of wholesaling on market. It's a technique that works very well for me, and I teach how to do that. Agents almost always ask for proof of funds because that's an on-market thing. You don't get that with off-market, but with on-market, they might say, hey, you're making a $50,000 cash offer. Prove to me that you've got the $50,000. And that's where like a proof of funds letter, or, you know, even better would be a screenshot of a bank account. You know, that's kind of what they're looking for. So know that you've got that one challenge. If you're dealing with agents, they're going to ask you for proof of funds. And I mean, we give those unlimited custom proof of funds if you're a pro or prime level subscriber to my Flipster software. But that's the only thing where you may need some kind of something when you're making offers, but not off market. That's I don't think that's ever come up with us.
In off market and over, I don't know, 700 deals maybe that I've done, and thousands of deals I've coached people through. You won't hear it again. It'll be one of those things that you just don't have to prep for. Off market, I've never been asked, hey, can I get a pre-approval? Because if so, you're probably working with the wrong client. You're probably working with someone that wants full retail, and that's not the deal you're looking for anyways, unless you're doing like creative financing. But even still, there's a motivation behind the creative financing that they're not going to ask for this. So if someone's asking for this, it's because they're expecting retail and to be bought out of it. And that's not who we're looking for.
Or you're talking about an on-market lead where the agent's asking for something. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Is it illegal to put a house under contract without having the funds to back it?
Ooh, good one. So you want me to answer this?
Yeah, let's go. We'll tag team that.
This really comes back to ethics. Like a lot of people say, you know what? I don't morally feel good saying I'm a cash buyer when I don't actually have the cash to close. And I think there's some legitimacy to that concern, right? You want to be able to say to people, hey, you know, I'm a cash buyer, and feel confident and feel good about what you're telling people. We don't want to lie to sellers. And I think there is a lot of our industry that kind of blows this part of it. And there's some arguments that wholesaling is unethical because it's not truthful about what we're saying to sellers. So, but this is so easy to solve. It's all in the way you say this. So for example, what we say is we say, you know, me or my investors or partners buy properties for cash.
Yep.
Now, referring to you and or your cash buyer, technically your partner, your cash buyer is going to pay all cash. When you say it that way, you're not lying because your cash buyer you assign it to, who is your partner in the transaction, is going to come forward with the cash. And so you can say that with your head held high, with confidence, with knowing that you're not lying or misleading or deceiving people. It's just the way you say it that matters.
That's 100% true, guys. And I think it's simple to keep it simple, like just like that. It's not going into it any further than that. Yes, I may do it as a fix and flip. I may do it as a rental, and I may partner with someone on this. So there's multiple strategies, but at the end of the day, we're looking to close on the 22nd and get the funds in your hands. Does that work for you, Mr. Seller? Awesome. And where most people will go wrong, Jerry, and and where I hear this, and it's fun. It'd be no different, guys. I'm a Disney person. If my camera was zoomed out, you'd have like Mickey Mouse over here, the Seven Dwarfs. Earlier today, I don't know when I switched my hat out, but I had a Mickey hat on. But I'll tell you, if you went to Disneyland and you sat on a ride after sitting in line for an hour, and then the guy that pushes the green button, instead of just saying, hey, keep your arms, hands, and feet in at all times, enjoy your ride, and then push the button, what if he took it upon himself to say, hey, on Space Mountain, guys, you're going to be going up and it's a chain driven. Even though it feels like it's belt driven, it's not. It's chain driven. And you're going to go up to the top and you think you're going to turn left, but you're actually going to turn right. And Walt Disney was inspired by this. In fact, I have my little Walt statue right here. He was inspired by this ride by doing this. We would literally be like, yeah, I really could care less, sir. Just tap the green button, bro. Just tap the green button. And really, sometimes we get too granular in the weeds with our sellers and we say, now, guys, it might be that it's a wholesale, and wholesaling is the art of finding deeply discounted properties. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is put this home under contract at a deep discount. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this contract and assign it to a cash buyer. And these cash buyers are going to be the one that actually bring the money, and we're going to close. And meanwhile, the seller's like, hit the green button. Like, I don't care. All I agreed on today is that you're going to close on the 22nd. And that X amount of dollars is going to be in my bank account on the 22nd. If you can do that, I don't care what you do. But so many times we try to complicate the situation. Just simple, like Jerry said. I may do, there's various things we could do. We either might keep it as a rental, we might rehab it, put it on the market, or we might partner with someone. But at the end of the day, Jerry, 22nd, we plan on closing and get you paid. Yep. That's it.
I'll even say this has happened to me, on a handful of times. Like you said, Cody, people don't really care as long as you perform. But I've had a seller say to me, are you actually the one that's going to buy my property? Now, I'm guessing that question is coming from maybe a bad experience with another wholesaler or something, right? So what I'll say to them is I'll say, I don't know. Either I will, or I also work with a lot of investors. I've got several partners. Me or one of my partners will buy your house for cash. And so I just reassure them. I don't lie to them. I'm totally honest with them. And again, when you reassure them that, what does it matter as long as performance happens on the contract? That's really what they want to hear. What they want to hear is, are you going to make good on our deal? Are we going to get to a closing here? And so just reassure them. They don't really care if you're the one that buys it, do they? Why would they? They just want to feel good that it's going to happen. And so that's your job, to make them feel comfortable with that.
Yeah. Love that. What's a good deal, Jerry?
What's a basketball? Okay. So this is the real, if we break down wholesaling really from 30,000 feet up in the sky, looking down, a good deal is what will somebody else, AKA cash buyer, what will they pay for this lead, whatever it is we're looking at, what will they pay for it? If I buy it below that, 10,000, 15,000, whatever your margin is, that's a good deal. So what tends to happen is we tend to think of formulas, 70% less repairs, or we tend to think of all these things, cap rates or whatever. None of that matters at the end of the day. What matters is, what do the active cash buyers in your market, what are they paying for deals? Below that is what is a good deal for you as a wholesaler. That's it. Yeah. And if you really can look at that, if you look at the business that way, no longer do you get so hung up on formulas and numbers and all these different things that we tend to think really matter. They don't matter. It's, at the end of the day, what are cash buyers paying for that house in that neighborhood? That below that is a deal. That's as simple as we can say it.
Love it. Love it. There's nothing more to add on that. And they love it too. Let's see. Here you go. How can you tell if a cash buyer is just another wholesaler? That happens really, really quick. Like really, 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 really quick. You'll notice because of the process I do, I never have this problem in the first place. So let me break down my disposition process. Guys, this is the process where I see many wholesalers leave millions of dollars over the years on the table. And if you just converted this one thing tonight, you would walk off this saying, oh my gosh, 2021, this could be another, by just doing the same amount of deal flow, same amount of ad spend, that you could add another 100 grand, 200 grand, 300 grand. Sky's the limit, depending on how many deals you did, by just this one process, and eliminate this daisy chain garbage that goes on. Is too many times on the contract, or when we're presenting the contract to cash buyers, it just says purchase or buy at $120,000. And so the first person that commits to $120,000 and $5,000 earnest money, or whatever the EMD is, earnest money deposit, is the first one locked in. That's the problem, is they allow someone to lock up this assignment contract without any other competition involved. So how did I change the verbiage on that? I said suggested starting price. That's it. Meaning I'm going for highest and best. And I say that in the email. Suggested starting price, $120,000. We're going to be doing an inspection on the property on such and such date. And then they go out, inspect the property. And then when they say, man, I would really love this. Awesome. We're taking offers all the way up till Friday, and we'll get back to that point. But all we're asking is you to just submit your highest and best by Friday, and we'll make a decision shortly after and let you know. Now, guys, here's where you've got to be honest. Do not use that to their defense or to your defense and now shop it like, oh, we have a guy at 225. So if you go higher than that, you're the highest. Hey, now we got a guy at 228. So now if you do this, we'll do this for you. No, this is an honest, legitimate, highest and best. And that way you don't get any of these little nonchalant like daisy chains or cash buyers that are actually wholesalers that have someone else that can come in and they daisy chain. Now I got rid of it by just taking my highest and best offer, period, the end. And I've never had a deal daisy chain ever since I swapped to that process. And we're making more money per deal instead of just saying, hey, you can purchase now at this price.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I don't want to add anything to that, because now you're getting, by doing that, now you're getting top price. You're not leaving room in the deal for another wholesaler to juice it another 5 or 10 or whatever on top of where you're at. So it allows you then to get, top price for it. So that's awesome. Love that.
Okay. What is your opinion on using VA callers? You touched a little bit about this, but why don't you maybe just do another brief touch on that?
I mean, we use VAs all across the business. We use them for general kind of admin stuff, like list building and things like that, texting and all kinds of different things. And then the people we put on the phones, though, they need to be a whole different caliber of people when you put them on the phones, right? So you can find really good VAs. We have some VAs that are $5-6 a foot, or $5-6 an hour.
You're talking rehab again.
Out here. $5-6 an hour, and they're awesome for general type of things, but I would never put them on the phones because they have an accent, or you can hear chickens in the background because they're or whatever. So but putting VAs on the phones, you got to have good ones, and you got to have a process to manage. But yeah, heck yeah, we do that quite a bit.
All right. Do you work with international investors? I'm from Australia. Can I work with you? How to contact, please? I don't know if that means international investors in the sense of training, coaching, or do we accept you to purchase our deals? I'll go on the latter one. Our cash buyers list, we have people from all over the world, believe it or not. We have buyers on our list that are from other countries other than the US, to answer that. And as to work with for the mentoring, the coaching, it just depends on my side for wholesaling. Does it translate? I would never want someone to buy something of mine if it doesn't translate in Australia. So that's the main thing is, can you wholesale? Are you seeing this happening in your market? And if so, I know Jerry and I would both be glad to work with you. There's no hesitation there. We're just both, maybe I shouldn't speak for you, Jerry, but I know it's the truth, is just truth teller, truth seeker. I would never want you to spend money with me if it doesn't translate. I've worked with a student in Canada, and all of my marketing breaks the law in Canada meaning
Yeah.
you can't cold call. You can't buy lists. Like there's so many things that you cannot do in Canada. Now, it doesn't mean that my acquisition and disposition process doesn't work. It works very much for him. He just had to learn marketing on his own because it didn't connect with how I was teaching him.
Yeah. So, the laws are going to vary in other countries for sure. I mean, they vary state to state in the US, and then they're going to definitely vary country to country. What you can do is you can live in Australia and you can virtually wholesale in the US if that's what you're looking to do. Again, you're going to have to overcome a lot of those challenges with virtual, especially time zones and figuring out how to transact money and all those types of things, bank account, whatever. But we have a lot of wholesalers that come through my training and my different programs, and they live overseas and they're doing deals here in the US. So, I mean, that's totally fine. You just talk to a CPA or a tax specialist and figure out your entity stuff and crossing country lines into the US and all the rules and regulations that your country is going to require. So you just got to figure some things out, but you can do deals in the US. Lots of people invest in the US from overseas. If you want to lend me your money, I'll borrow your money on deals all day long. So
I will too.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Yeah.
All money spent the same here. All right. How do you deal with sellers when hitting a pre-foreclosure list, and what can I offer them? This is going to be a good one. Guys, when it comes to this, Joshua, great question, by the way. How do you deal with sellers when hitting pre-foreclosure lists? No matter what, let's get the four like pillars of motivation, and that is time, condition, price, and driver. So time, condition, price, driver. Time meaning they got to sell quick. That's a sign of motivation. Price, or I'm sorry, condition of the home. Man, it's in shambles. We had a guy in there smoking meth. Bad condition means motivation. Price can be a sign of motivation, but 99 times out of 100, it's actually a deceiver. Everyone wants the highest amount for their home. So don't go based off price. If someone tells you it's 300,000 and that's all it's worth is 300,000, don't give up on that lead, because there's three other prongs or three other legs to that pillar of motivation. And so make sure you're finding out and see if any of these other exist. And the last one, obviously, is driver. That's like your tax delinquent, your pre-foreclosure, behind on their mortgage. You never want to approach people knowing what they're on. Meaning, I don't want to come to Jerry and say, hey, Jerry, I noticed you're on the pre-foreclosure list. Want to see how I can help you out? Boom. Like, get ready to get punched in the face, or get ready to be like called every bad word in the book. It's going to happen. And they'll compound many punches in your face, compound many bad words told of how nasty you are, and you just might give up. So it's crucial you never bring that up. If you're going to go knock for doors, depending on how you plan on doing this, Joshua, if you plan on knocking doors and you're strictly targeting people on pre-foreclosure, I would make sure you don't say, I found out you're on pre-foreclosure. I'd just be like, hey, I'm in the area. I'm super excited to buy a home in this area. Do you happen to know anyone that is looking to sell? You're not saying, are you looking to sell? Because they're going to be like, oh, I know where you found me. You found me on the pre-foreclosure list. Get out of here. Ask them, hey, do you know of anyone that's looking to sell in this neighborhood? I'm really interested in buying a home in this neighborhood. If they're interested, they will tell you, yeah, I'm actually interested in selling my home. And then you just go from there. Jerry, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so a couple of things you want to be aware of is pre-foreclosure could be a very tight timeline or a extended timeline. It all depends on where they're at in pre-foreclosure. So like Cody said, you're not going to bring that up in the conversation because that might offend them. If they divulge that information, which more than likely at some point they probably will, but you just need to know that all pre-foreclosures are facing a looming foreclosure deadline. Like there's going to be an auction at some point in time. Where are they at in the timeline? What I found is, I call it the ostrich effect. People stick their head in the sand and they don't deal with the problem until the 11th hour. So most of our pre-foreclosure deals, it's like, hey, it's Tuesday. My foreclosure is on Friday. Can you help me? Well, you haven't made your payment for a year and now you're worrying about it, right? Somehow it's just all going to work out. And then a week before they realize, oh, I better do something about this. That's the majority of pre-foreclosure. So, and they got your postcard they saved from 6 months ago and they call you, right? That's what's going to happen. So you got to know a lot of cases, if there's high motivation, it's because that foreclosure date is right around the corner. And now that time, the time prong is the biggest one you're facing now. Can I get this deal done in time? And then you're dealing with that. So one of the things that we always look for that you're going to have to deal with is getting a payoff letter. Every seller can request a payoff letter from their lender. Banks usually send that out like same day because they pay off loans every day. So you want to see the outstanding balance. It doesn't matter what they say. I find sellers say all kinds of numbers, but in reality, there's $50,000 in back payments and penalties and all these other fees because they haven't made their payment forever. So there's a real number that you kind of want to know before you can really do a whole lot more. So one of the things we do is I want to find out when's the auction and get me a payoff letter so we can see the real number. And at that point, now we can see if we can put a deal together and help that person. Otherwise, they're probably going to be facing auction or, maybe they can delay that. And one more thing I want to just tell everybody is keep in mind, there's moratoriums right now, right? So government has put holds on foreclosures. Nobody's getting foreclosed on right now. So everything's backlogging. So what that means is it means ostrich effect, right? People aren't really worrying about their foreclosure. They're living in their homes without making their payments. So there's probably less motivation than we're going to see when the moratoriums are lifted and now they're foreclosing again. So that's kind of the big thing to kind of just be aware of and think about. One more thing I'll throw at this is I don't think we're going to see a lot of foreclosures in the middle and high markets because most people have equity. Where foreclosures are going to be happening the most are low income. So if you're doing a low income market, plan on short sales and plan on foreclosures being a thing that happens here in the foreseeable future. Because people are getting laid off, unemployment's what it is, and that's going to affect low income more than really anybody else. So I'm seeing right now in the markets where we do low income, like Metro Detroit, we do a lot of deals in Metro Detroit. We're starting to see a lot of short sales in Metro Detroit because those are the proactive people that are saying, you know what, I better get ahead of this. I know I have negative equity. I know my property's worth less than what's owed on my loan. I better initiate a short sale and start that process.
Yeah.
Which means for every short sale, there's 10 foreclosures that are going to happen where people are not addressing it. They're just ignoring the situation. And those are all backlogging right now. Make sense? Phenomenal.
What happens after you've got the deal, but can't get a buyer in 30 days? Now, guys, this is a great question. And it's not to say that you have 30 days to act. You just have whatever's in the contract. So most contracts have what's called the due diligence period. But I want you to understand that whether you're a wholesaler or a retail buyer, it's the same. Even if you went through a real estate agent, there's still a due diligence period. Usually it's 10 days or 15 days. It's not the full period, right? Like, yes, you got to close within 30 days or 45 days, but then there's this due diligence period that says you got to have your inspection, you got to have your mortgage person lined up, and you got to do it by this day. Otherwise, you forfeit your earnest money deposit, right? Same thing. The beautiful part about wholesaling, though, is you get to make those rules and see if they'll sign to it. So it could very much match the same day as closing. Like, hey, we're closing on the 22nd and I have till the 22nd to know if I really want this or not. You can do that. And as long as your seller's fine with that, move forward. So really, it's not just 30 days. I want to make sure everyone understands. It just depends on what the contract says your due diligence period is. And if you don't close on it and you've gone past that due diligence period, you're going to lose or forfeit that earnest money deposit that you put down. And that is rightfully the seller's now and no longer yours. So it's just making sure that you're aware of that. If you cannot perform, just make sure that you don't just send a text and say, hey, I can't buy this anymore. You're under contract. So you're going to have to send a contract to cancel that transaction, cancel that deal. So that's the other part is don't just think it's an easy, hey, sorry, Jerry, not purchasing anymore. It's going to be, hey, Jerry, I got to send over some paperwork. I found out that I'm not going to be able to make this work, so I've got to cancel the contract. And I send over paperwork for him to sign that allows me out of the contract. and I've got to submit that before my due diligence period.
Yeah, so I'll crack at this too. I get this question all the time, and there's a fear. What if I get a contract? Now I'm bound to some contract and I can't find a buyer. Oh no, that's a really bad thing. It's really easy to solve this. First of all, I feel like if I can't find a cash buyer for my deal in the first 10 days, I don't have a deal. Every time I haven't been able to get a cash buyer in the first 10 days, it means I don't actually have a good deal. So if you know that, then you can simply add a 10-day due diligence clause in your contract, like Cody just explained. Shop for your cash buyer. During that 10-day window, you'll find the real number. Cash buyers will respond. They'll say, hey, that's not a deal, and here's why, or here's the real number. Here's the number I'm willing to pay. And then you've got two options. Go back and renegotiate your contract with legitimate cause. Like, don't just go back to the seller and say, hey, I need a better deal, but say, hey, during my due diligence, it came to my attention that these issues were more than I thought. I still want to perform, but I can no longer pay 80. I got to pay 70. Do you want to continue? And if they do, amend your contract and move forward with your cash buyer. If they don't, terminate the contract and move on. You do all of that in a 10-day window during your due diligence clause, and you're fine. Your earnest money's protected. If you have earnest money, it's protected. And you legitimately have that time frame to do due diligence. So you're not breaching contract. You're not, no one can be offended at you. None of that. So I think it's a really simple thing to manage.
I love this one. She put these bullseyes, Tammy, and then she followed up with, I couldn't find gold nugget emoji, or I would have used that. Tammy, thank you. Let's see. Can I start at 18? And so where to look and start, Jerry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have to be 18 to sign a contract, I think, in most states. So I got to tell you a really funny story, Cody. So I had a 16-year-old DM me, and he said, hey, so I started wholesaling. My dad said that he would sign a contract if I got a good deal. I found a good deal, and now my dad's reneging on his deal with me. What do I do? So I said, do what my kids do and go ask your mom. So,
dude.
No, but in all honesty, if you're 18, you can sign a contract, right? So you're fine. Just if you're under 18, then you're going to run into that challenge where you're going to need your parent probably to co-sign for you. But this is what my son does. I have a 20-year-old son. He came to me and he said, Dad, college isn't for me. I want to do real estate. Clearly it works, right? He sees Dad's example. And I said, awesome. Now I didn't have him work for me because I don't want to jeopardize our relationship. And, he's 20, he's got some growing up to do. So he's actually in Utah working for a wholesaler group that, Cody, you probably know him, but they do about 5 transactions. Not Cody.
Come on now. You're going to send your boy up here and not be on the Hofhine team?
I'll have him talk to you, Cody, but he's doing great. He's done a couple deals already, but he started out in acquisitions. They actually started him, resurrecting cold leads. So follow up on leads, making appointments. He did great with that. They moved him up, and now they're giving him like warm leads. He's I just talked to him today. He's closed 1 transaction. He's working on 3 more right now where he secured the deals. So, he's getting paid commission, right? And it's an awesome place to start. Now, I think he'll hang out in that role for a while, get a lot of experience. He's doing sales. He doesn't have any money out. He's not managing a team, nothing. He's just learning sales, right? Wholesaling.
Yeah.
And that's a great place to get a start, make some money. And I think when he's ready, he can then go out on his own and do his own deals. So, if you feel like you need kind of that mentorship, a good company to work under, gain some skills, I say hook up with a wholesaler in town that's doing deals. They're going to put you down at the crappy stuff to see if you're worth your weight in gold. Prove yourself, work hard. They'll move you into sales. They always do. I would. If I had someone start out with me that was 18 and he was willing to clean toilets, run errands, whatever, call dead leads, make appointments, the crappy stuff nobody wants to do that, prove yourself. They're going to give you more and more responsibility, and you're going to learn the business. Great place to start.
100% agree. We had an individual that came in looking for a job. and he found us from one of our marketing channels for applicants. Get this, guys. He came in for the driving for dollars position. Doesn't take much. All you got to do is have a heart rate. Like, really, that's it, in a car. So he gets the job, and then he was talking during the interview, and I'm like, man, this guy would be solid on the phones. He was just a nice guy, one of those friendly people. Cold callers, the best cold callers are not closers. The best cold callers are the ones that you can't hang up on because the people are just too nice. And that's who this guy was. So he said, why don't you try cold calling? And it'd pay you a little bit more. He gets on the phones and just locks up, and he couldn't do it. And we're like, oh, maybe not. Maybe we'll go back to driving for dollars, right? So he goes to driving for dollars, but yet he came to all of our meetings because he still wanted to learn the business. Couldn't hold a conversation with a glass of water, but yet the guy kept coming to our meetings. And so he'd come to the meeting, and we always did a breakdown. We'd always do like a live session, like, hey, who wants to do a mock call? And this guy raised his hand. He's all, do you guys think I can? And we're like, sure, why not? And he starts doing it, and we're like, holy cow, you've been practicing. He's like, oh, if only you guys knew. Like, my mom and dad almost want to disown me. I call them every single night, and I'd say, hey, I want to practice this script with you. Do you mind doing it with me? To the point where my dad's like, okay, you sound good. You don't need to call me anymore. Then I started doing it to my brother, and then my sister, and then my friends. And one friend actually said, dude, I can't do this anymore. Like, you've called me like 15 times. I can't do this anymore. Dude, that's what this guy, he just came in and he absorbed it like a sponge. He didn't allow his weakness to stay with him forever. He just practiced and practiced and practiced. That guy now today, just so you know, he's head of cold calling, meaning he trains every one of our cold callers and manages them. He has the highest position in cold calling and gets a manager fee for it because he went through that brutal training and losing friends and family practicing because he wanted to prove to himself, I'm going to learn this. And he's still with us. He's been with us 3.5 years. But that's one of those stories that as an 18-year-old, what you can do, find out how you can just add value and just keep learning the process and be willing to get uncomfortable. That dude got uncomfortable. He was awful at talking, and now he's our best cold caller, now manages every one of our cold callers.
That's awesome. What a great story, Cody. Love that. Yeah, that's awesome.
What if a cash buyer wants to see the property? How transparent are you with the seller?
Yeah, so I do the same thing you do, Cody, which is so we do a two-step process. One is we will call our A-list buyers, and that's like our VIP buyers. These are buyers that pull the trigger quick. They've got the cash. There's no hand-holding. We tell them the address, and they're like, done, I want it, easy, right? So, but if it doesn't go to one of them, then we try to set up, and we call it an inspection party, right? It's an open house showing. We blast it out to our list, and we say, hey, between 8 and 12 or whatever window of time, on, like you said, Cody, on Friday, we're opening the property up. Everybody come in there. We give the seller a $100 gift card and say, go have fun for the afternoon. And we get everybody there. We create an auction environment. We tell them suggested price is this, highest and best due Friday. We try to get it bid up, find the highest buyer. But the nightmare is when you're trying to schedule individual cash buyers all at their own scheduling and time. And that's a nightmare. I mean, what a scheduling nightmare to try to do that. So I highly recommend not doing that. One of the things that I do, Cody, in all of my contracts is we say, this is a clause we add to our contract that says, if it's vacant, seller gives buyer unrestricted access to the property via a contractor lockbox. Now, if it's vacant, we get the lockbox. I'm less worried. I can just send people over there and it's fine. If it's occupied, then we say seller to give buyer access to property with 24-hour notice. That at least gives me that option where if I got to get a contractor in there or a buyer or whatever, we let the seller know, then we schedule it and we get them in there. It's a pain in the butt, right? Because the seller's living there. So, but the perfect situation is you get all your cash buyers there at the same time. You get that auction environment going, highest and best, and you'll get that property bid up to the best number.
Love it. And yes, we're very transparent with our seller. We just let them know. Yeah. Hey, in fact, we never know because our cash buyers list is over 9,000, Hunter, to put it in perspective. There could be 20 people, there could be 40 people, there could be 50 people at our inspections. And so here's been our best verbiage. We literally say this: hey, we're going to do an inspection on the property. Going to have a little small army come through. We don't put a number. We don't say 10, 15, 30. Like, we don't say any number. We just say we're going to have a small army come through. And these are people, contractors that are going to go through, start looking through it, and start putting together what it's going to take to do what we need to do. So that'll be Wednesday at 2:00. And that's as transparent as all you need to be. We're going to have a small army coming through. And sometimes when 30 people come through, they'll ask you, and you'll be like, yeah, that's that small army I was telling you about. And they just start laughing.
Yeah, remember, you can say investors, partners, and contractors. I got to get my whole, we're going to have a bunch of people coming through, investors, partners, contractors. And then that way they just kind of know, okay, a bunch of people are coming. It's fine. And it's not a big deal.
Love it. Great content, guys. REI Diaries, thank you. Nice to see you guys collaborating. Thank you. Appreciate the comments. Yeah. Jerry, specific to you, my friend, can you talk about using a closing attorney instead of a title company in Georgia? What's the difference between a closing attorney and a title company?
So every state uses something different. There's three things. It could either be title, an escrow office, or an attorney. Certain states just use attorneys to close. Now, sucks to be you, because attorneys charge a lot more for closing fees because you got to pay for their martinis and whatever, right? So if it's an attorney state, then attorneys close the transactions. If it's a title state, a title company closes the transactions, and some, they just call them an escrow closing company. But all three of those do the same thing. They close the transaction. So don't get hung up on one or the other. If you hear title company and you're in an attorney state, it's the same thing. It's an attorney that's doing it for you in your state. So really simple, just Google your state and then you'll find out what you are. I think Georgia does both. I think they do. Maybe they're just attorney. Do you know, Cody? But I know for sure
I'm not 100% on that. I thought they did both, to be honest. And maybe that's why he's asking, what's the difference? There really isn't a difference. Okay. Title companies are still ran by an attorney.
Yeah. Yep. So in Georgia, I think you just plan on it's an attorney that's going to close, but there are specific real estate closing attorneys. So
yeah, New York is an attorney closing state. There is no title. It has to go through an attorney.
Yep. Yep. So that's all.
Here's a cool one for you. Benny Raskin. Can I be your guys' bird dog? I'm 15. I want to say kudos to you, brother, and I'll give you a huge shout out right now. To have the mindset to say, can I be your guys' bird dog, and you're 15 years old? Rock on. You are amazing. And he says he has 130 houses on his vacant house list from Tucson, Arizona. That would be more in line with Jerry, not me. So yes, I know Jerry would accept any deals that we have in Tucson. He builds big, massive rehabs that are multi-million dollar rehabs in Tucson.
Yeah, I've got a monster rehab in Tucson right now. So heck yeah. So Benny, because you can't sign a contract because you're 15, you can bird dog like crazy. And bird dogs, if you just bring leads to other investors, typically they'll pay you $500, $1,000. Like, I'll pay $1,000. You bring me a good deal. And all I need is the lead. Give me a phone number, an address, and we'll contact the seller. We'll make an offer. If we get a deal done, I'll pay you $1,000 all day long. So, find yourself a bunch of investors that are looking for deals and bird dog. That's a great way to get started.
Fantastic way. I'm in DFW. Let's JV. Let's go. Bring me deals. We'd love to JV. We love DFW. That's where we're at. We're going to do quite a bit down there. Let's see. How much time you have, Jerry? This could go all night. We've got some phenomenal questions. What should we put a cap on? Should we do a couple more, a handful more, like 2 or 3 more?
Let's do a couple more. We've been going almost an hour and a half. Let's do a couple more.
Yeah. Okay. If we want to scale to 20, 30 deals a year virtually, what list should we pull and how many records, different states? So, Carlos, great question. That's going to be tough, right? That's going to be tough. Like, here's the thing. When you start to say like how many different states, remember that now comes with a learning curve of now learning each and every market. I would say if you want to do 20 to 30 deals, I think that's doable in most one market. Like in just one market, you can do that 20 to 30 deals a year virtually. and learn one market. I think learning 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 markets to get 30 deals sounds like a big headache to me. So I would keep it as focused as you can to just one market. And here's a list, guys, that I want you to think of. Pend. This might be backwards. So P-E-N-D, Pend. PEND stands for probate, eviction, notice of default, and divorce. Those are our 4 hottest performing lists right now. Write that down. PEND. Probate, eviction, notice of default, and divorce. And in many states, you can pull that daily, which means awesome sauce. So that's a good 4 list that if you could pull records, I'd be pulling those. PEND is one of our favorite when it comes to list.
Yeah. So Carlos, you want to make sure that you scale incrementally as it makes sense, right? So the way I look at it is if your average contract is $3,000 to $5,000 in marketing costs, which is industry standard, then start with a budget of, hey, let's get 3 deals, which means you're going to need to budget about $15,000, anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 over a month to get you 3 contracts. Start spending, get match it, right? So like prove that you can get deals and your spend per contract is making sense. Then what we do is we spend a little bit more. Can we scale? What tends to happen when you scale sometimes is you lose effectiveness. You start spending more money, you're not converting as good. Now your price per contract starts going up and you're just wasting money ineffectively. So you don't ever want to say, hey, I'm going to start dumping $100,000 a month, which is going to get me, 20 deals. Maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. You don't want to find out after you spend $100,000 that you're not on track, right? So work incrementally. If you've got marketing budget, start with 3 a month, prove it for a month, see if you can scale to 4 a month, 5 a month, 6 a month. As long as you're scaling and you're managing that growth and you're hitting your cost per contract and you're hitting your gross sales and all your margins are falling in line, then clearly keep scaling. But every time you scale and bring on more team, more cost, more everything, there's a tipping point where a lot of people can no longer manage that effectively. Now, if you can keep managing it effectively, great, keep going. As soon as you stop managing it effectively, you got to slow down, work on your systems, work on your processes, work on your team, fix the holes in your boat, and before you can keep going. That way you're not blowing money aimlessly.
All right. I have one that I'm going to prep for that I just pulled up. Here's is this our last one, Jerry? And then they can keep going in on questions okay, here we go, guys. I do 1 to 3 deals per month, but want to scale my wholesale business. What advice can you give me? I have VAs in the Philippines, but want to hire local callers and have about 2 to 5 employees. Fantastic. This already all sounds good. Here's the one thing we said at the beginning: process before people. Make sure you have a dialed in process. If it's not written down, it does not exist. Meaning you got to make sure that before you can bring on people, bring them into an environment where they can succeed with or without you. So McDonald's, they lose their burger flipper tomorrow. Who cares? They got 1,000 applicants in line. And when they do come in, they're taught by a process. It's not the manager saying, hey, we're going to spend 5 hours together flipping burgers so that you know how to flip burgers. I can promise you they go to a 2x2 cubicle and they watch a video that teaches them how to flip a burger. And then the next day they're plugged right in flipping burgers, right? Same thing. You've got to break it down granular. So I want you to start thinking, what processes do you have in place already recorded? When you pull a list from ListSource, when you pull a list from your city, when you pull a list from your county, do you have a screen record of logging in and here's what you're going to do and it's going to be this, so that when you bring on someone that's going to manage your lists, that it's not you managing them, but it's your process, your videos that's going to manage them? If so, you're in a good start to start bringing on team, but I would not bring a team on until it is a process. So break down your whole thing. A good work would literally be like, what's your we call it customer experience map. From the moment a lead comes in all the way to close, what all has to happen? and write those processes down and see how many of them you can make a video on, so that when you bring people on, your acquisition managers, they go through a training with videos so that you don't have to break away. So that's first one. And then the other one is, you don't need to have, so if someone's going to have a base salary or a commission, so many times we get scared bringing on the base salary guy because we think, oh man, he needs to make 50 grand a year and I don't have 50 grand. Here's the best part. You shouldn't have to. We talk about this term profitable servants, right? They've got to be people that are profitable and profitable pretty quick. I like to give people 3 months. So what does that mean for me? I only need 3 months of salary, meaning maybe $13,000, $14,000. That's all I need. I'm not committing to 50 grand. I'm committing to you, Jerry, that you can have a place here on my team. But if you don't commit to doing deals and it doesn't work out, I only have this open for 3 months. After that, if you're not performing, we have to let you go, Jerry. And that would be the upfront crucial conversation. But many people don't bring on salary people because they think, oh man, I don't have 50 grand. You shouldn't have to think that way. You should think, I only have 3 grand in the bank to pay for you. And if you don't bring in money, guess what? There's no job. It doesn't exist. And at that point, they should be paying for themselves and be profitable. Those are the 2 things I would say when it comes to scaling. Anything you want to throw in there, Jer?
Yeah, maybe just a leadership tip here. And that is, as you start to grow your business, I mean, you're off to a great start, 1 to 3 contracts a month. You've got some pipeline going on here. A few tweaks, you can quickly get from 1 to 3 to 3 to 5, and maybe from the leap from 5 a month to 10 a month. It's that's not a hard jump to do. A lot of times it's just a couple tweaks and you're there. So that's exciting that you've got some momentum going. So congratulations on that. But as you start to now build a team, remember, talent follows vision. You cannot bring on talented people if they're not catching the vision of what you're building, where you're going. You are that driver. They have to buy into you, and you have to provide that vision. So, and by doing that, you'll get some really talented people. So just always be thinking about, how do I show my team that this is an opportunity unlike anything else, why this is great, how there's room for them to grow, where they can look at themselves being in the company in 3-5 years, and always be painting that vision for people. And that's how you really get the best people out there to come on board and grow with you, especially at these early stage. You're not there where you can say, hey, we do 10 deals a month. You're saying, hey, we're at 1 to 3, we want to get to 10, but come on and help me build this thing. That's going to take vision on your part to get there.
Love it. Love it. Well, dude, we just went solid strong, little over an hour and a half. Solid work, guys. You guys help make this. Just so you know, we try to come in here and do the best we absolutely can, knowing that there's more questions than we have time. But we want to thank you guys. This is very much sacred time. You could have been home with your family. There's so many things that could be going on, but for one reason or another, you hopped on here, and we want to thank you guys. That means a lot to us because your questions allowed this to go on for an hour and a half. I was thinking in 136, an hour and 36 minutes. And I thank you for that. This is an honor to do. I love doing this. Jerry loves doing this. So thank you guys. Jerry, in closing, anything that you want to throw out and finalize with these guys?
Yeah. So guys, once this live stream ends, this video will now be out there, right? So it's on my YouTube channel. I think it goes on your YouTube channel, Cody, and other places. So guys, the chat gets shut down, but the video is now on the channel. So if you've got additional questions, if you're watching this, after the fact and it's no longer live, now you got to go to the comments, leave comments. I try to get in there and answer questions. I know, Cody, you do too. We'll try to answer those questions for you. But be sure to tune in. We're going to try to do this as a regular thing every week, same time on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Mountain time. That's, what is that right now?
7 Eastern.
7 Eastern.
Yep.
So mark your calendar. Come on here. We're going to do our very best to have really good topics. We're going to bring on guests. We're going to do straight Q&A sometimes like this. And we want to make this amazing and really be valuable for you right now listening, doing these lives. So be sure to do that. One final thing too is, leave a comment right now and say, hey, Cody, Jerry, you guys are flipping geniuses. That'll feed our ego a little bit, make us feel good about what we do. But no, in all honesty,
Jerry the GOAT is what I'm seeing in here.
That's cool too. Thank you. But no, honestly, Cody, thank you for all you do in the industry. It's amazing to be able to work with someone that has such high morals, high integrity, really out there to do good and help people and bless lives. And that's really what this is all about at the end of the day. So it's an amazing blessing to have this opportunity. And guys, again, I'm starting to see some regulars here, Cody. Like, I'm recognizing names.
I love this. Like, we're getting it. And yes, I feel like majority of these, I see a lot of repeats in here, which it's fantastic to see.
Yeah, that means a lot. There we go. Jerry, you guys are flipping geniuses. Awesome. So thank you guys. And we'll see you guys again next week.
All right. Take care, guys. See ya.